What does possibility mean to you?
That's a hard question.
Something that you can strive for.
That I'm able to do anything I set my mind to.
You're confident in yourself and you believe in yourself. Stuff that you could achieve.
I feel excited. Anything is possible when you're more confident.
Shoes are a huge part of that. They are the most important part of my style.
You can express yourself.
In the right shoes, anything is possible.
DSW, countless shoes at brag-worthy prices. Imagine the possibilities.
We all know those GLP-1 injections work wonders, but that price tag almost gave me a heart attack when my insurance denied coverage. I was staring at a choice between paying my mortgage or paying for weight loss. Talk about a rock and a hard place. Then I found Elevate Health compounded semaglutide at just $58 with payment plans that don't require a second mortgage. Same medication, same results, but a price that real folks can actually afford. Visit joinelevate.com today. That's JOINELEVATE.com. Your wallet will be as happy as your waistline. This medication is not FDA approved.
When you were here before, you couldn't look you in the eye. You're just like an angel. Your skin makes me cry. You float like a feather in a beautiful world. I wish I was special. You're so very special. But I'm a creep.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Kulturecast. My name is John Leon.
And I'm Nishar Pirasta.
Chris Stachiw couldn't be on today, so we're just going to go along without him. Today we're talking about Creep, which is a 2014 found footage horror movie directed by Patrick Brice and starring Mark Duplass and Patrick Brice. It is about a guy who gets hired to film one of those I'm dying of cancer videos for Mark Duplass's son. What do you think? Oh, well, before we get into what we thought about that movie, Ishar, what have you been watching recently?
This weekend I saw both The Martian and Sicario.
I saw The Martian too, that was good.
Yeah, did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I really liked it. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. I thought it was just going to be Apollo 13 on Mars. But it ended up being a lot more entertaining than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, I just wrote a review for the site. I don't know if it's up yet, but I liked how, it, as opposed to something like Interstellar, which obviously is a bit more high concept, the science was there, at least from my perspective, but I wasn't like, oh, I have no idea what's going on. And I really appreciated that. And I liked how it was really funny. Mm-hmm. And
I liked they picked a main character that was he was clearly smart, but he was also designed to be relatable to the normal person.
Yeah, he wasn't like a robot, and it's like the second time that Matt Damon has been lost in space, like the last year. Speaking of Interstellar, and the cast was really good. I understand why they didn't focus too much on the rest of the crew because it was kind of his movie, but I really enjoyed it. I mean, as far as Ridley Scott things that I've seen in recent memory, I think that was his best movie that I'd have to go through his filmography, but that I can recall in the last 5-10 years.
Mm-hmm. I think it was really funny that every 15 minutes or so they'd introduce another cast member that I was like, oh shit, that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, what if Donald Glover doesn't come in until the 30 minutes left in the movie?
Yeah, and he was his character was just weird.
Well, his character was Abed from Community, but with science.
That's an interesting way to put it, but yeah. And I think, as far as Sicario, have you seen that yet?
No, I have not seen that yet. I want to, but
it's kind of a bleak look, sort of on the war on drugs and the whole cartel type of deal. Hmm. But it's dour and dark and it's pretty messed up. But I really was into it. It's really intense. Mm-hmm. Benicio del Toro is great. Emily Blunt's great. The one thing is the advertisements made it almost see like Benicio del Toro is kind of the antagonist of the film. He's actually one of the guys that works with the task force. So that kind of caught me by surprise. Maybe I just misinterpreted the advertisements because I thought the movie was about them trying to stop him as a hitman.
No,
it's not about that at all.
Yeah, I could tell from the trailer it was like the chick, I forget the actress's name.
Emily Blunt, like, is supposed to work with him. And he's like a hitman that the U.S. hired to kill cartel members. Yeah, it's something along those lines. And it kind of deals with the whole blurring of the legality, because a lot of the stuff they do is over the border.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like, just because it's not legal, is it right? And it's like one of these things, like the whole war on drugs is such an abstract thing, but it has such ramifications, especially in Mexico. And it's interesting to see, like, both sides of it, and kind of how the yippee-ki-yay mentality of, like, America just going in there. There's a lot going on, but I highly recommend it. And one more thing I want to mention, I've written about this on the site. Scream Queens is amazing. That new Ryan Murphy show. I
have heard one trailer for it on Pandora, and that's it.
So it's like a horror comedy type deal. Like, it's basically about this sorority in college, and there's like this like red devil. It's a dude in a costume, or multiple people in a costume, like killing the sorority girls. But it's like super, like, kind of Scream, where like they talk about, oh, this is going to happen because, you're the obvious killer, blah, blah. Everyone has like a ridiculous backstory why they would be the killer.
Mm-hmm.
And it has Emma Roberts, who's a freaking collaborator with Ryan Murphy from American Horror Story, seasons 3 and 4. And I thought it'd kind of just be like another American Horror Story ripoff, but it's not. I mean, it's horror in the sense of it's like a slasher flick, but it's more akin to like an 80s or 90s slasher flick, but it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Jonas is in it. It has Ariana Grande. It has Jamie Lee Curtis. There's been the premiere, which is like the first 2 episodes, and then another episode 3. And I think they're going to do sort of the anthology thing that like American Horror Story is, where each season's going to be different. So this one's focusing on this college story. And I just find myself really, really into it. They did a whole set piece with these 2 devils chopping dudes up with chainsaws, set to Backstreet Boys, everybody. Like, it's so absurd. And like, Emma Roberts' character is Chanel, and she's like this awful sorority girl, and she's dating this dude who like bangs everyone. And she's like, oh, I want to get back together. And then the only thing is, I wish that you sleep with less people. And then the boyfriend, I forget the actor's name, but he's hilarious. He's like, do you hear how controlling you sound right now? It's just like little things like that. It's absurd, and maybe it's a little too self-aware at times, but I can't help but just laugh. And it's not frightening, but it's gory. So if you're looking for kind of a new show to watch, I'm all in on Scream Queens.
All right. Me personally, I've been watching a lot of stuff for the site recently, but in what time I do have, I've been watching a show called Dark Matter.
I've heard of that.
It's a sci-fi original show made by the same people that produced like Stargate SG-1, which I fucking love. And the first season is on Netflix now, so I've been watching that. It's like 6 people wake up out of cryo sleep on this spaceship with no memory of who they are, and the ship comes under attack. And so they start like...
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies. Inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week, and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcast. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
So far, what I've seen of it, they start to reveal little individual memories that they discover, or they find an artifact in their room that they get identified, and it tells them a little bit about who they are.
So it just started?
Yeah, the first season is over. The second season is going to start up in a little while. I'm not sure when exactly.
Oh, sorry, continue.
I'm almost done with the first season, but I haven't finished it yet. I think I've got 2 more episodes left.
So you recommend it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, especially if you're into those sort of shows. If you liked Stargate SG-1, Atlantis, I guess sort of Battlestar Galactica, but less so really, Serenity, Firefly, or Farscape, you know, those sort of lower budget, character-driven science fiction shows, then Dark Matter is a show that you might be interested in.
Cool beans. And anything else besides The Martian?
Nope. Horror movie stuff for this month.
Right. And obviously Creep.
But yeah. So let's get into Creep then.
Okay.
So, had you ever seen this before? It only came out in 2014, but, 2015 for USA, I guess.
No, I watched this on Netflix recently. I think it was one of the South by movies for this year. I could be wrong, but I think that's where it premiered. And I'm a huge fan of Mark Duplass. He and his brother direct a bunch of that mumblecore, I think is what their films are sort of described as. And he's also an actor. You know, he's been in Safety Not Guaranteed, and he's in The League. So I like seeing him kind of do different types of things. And I may have seen Patrick Brice in something before, and in general, I like horror films. I didn't realize it was found footage going into it. I just kind of heard some good things about it, and yeah, so it was my first time seeing it, and for the most part, I think I was pretty into the movie. It was different, kind of odd. But what about you?
I had never even heard about this movie. I think Chris mentioned it once when we were making the list for this month, and it was good. I enjoyed it. It was not knowing that it was going to be found footage. So it surprised me a little bit going into it. But I think it managed to do the found footage genre without being too, blatantly obnoxious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they had a pretty good, a lot of times it's the explanation is, oh, we gotta do this, or why would they always be carrying a camera with them, and sort of a suspension of, disbelief with these types of films. But for this film, I felt like for the most part, it made sense why he'd have the camera. And I didn't realize it'd be found footage either. I thought maybe the first part would be found footage and then just kind of be normal, shot like a normal film.
I like that it didn't do that though.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's sort of a cop-out when a found footage movie turns into a not found footage movie, you know?
I get, as long as the film's still, subjectively speaking, good, the format it's not a huge deal to me one way or the other, if that makes any sense. I feel like I'm having trouble explaining what I mean. But it's just the format of how they film it isn't really as important as the actual product itself. Because it could be good or bad either way. And I wouldn't really even call this a horror movie. It's kind of like a psychological thriller, but it's not.
There's that point where there's no point where Peach Fuzz is chasing Aaron, Patrick Brice's character. There's no point where Peach Fuzz the wolf is chasing Aaron through the woods with the axe, you know?
It's more like just small things, and you just think to yourself, something is off, but you don't really know what it is.
Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with Mark Duplass's character acting.
Yeah, because Mark Duplass, if you've seen him in other stuff, usually it's more comedic or kind of drama with comedic undertones. I don't know if you've seen a lot of the films he's been in or The League, but that's kind of I would say typically what he's in. But this was there was, you're okay, this guy's kind of funny, but there's something wrong with him. And it wasn't wrong and oh, this is haha, it was wrong. And you shouldn't be in this situation. And the film posits this idea of you have this connection with someone based really on nothing, and despite every single warning, red flag, you should keep coming back to it. It's almost like a allegory for, or maybe not allegory, and it's an analogy for being like a bad relationship, like where they constantly do things and you're like, there's no way I should be in it, but for some reason you keep coming back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe out of comfort or out of it represents something you sort of understand. I don't know. And maybe I'm reading too much into it.
I mean, I don't know if they meant to have that, but that's definitely something I could see, especially with the content towards the end.
Right.
Where Joseph, Mark Duplass's character, ends up sending Aaron, like, a stuffed wolf with a locket in it and videotapes and standing outside his house, That's what I'm saying. Yeah, because that totally feels like stuff. And even the phone call that Aaron makes to the police sounds like something that you would generally relate more towards as someone in a bad relationship trying to, like, break it off and being afraid of the person.
And, like, even though he gets that package and he knows he's like, okay, something's weird. He doesn't know what's weird, but by the end of the film, he knows I should not be in contact with this person anymore. But he kind of does that, like, forgiveness box or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I want to meet with you one last time. It's kind of like, when people are in a toxic relationship, they're like, oh, let's try it again one more time. And it invariably ends poorly.
Right.
But it is kind of almost, I don't know, maybe the more I say it out loud, the more I'm like, well, maybe it is sort of what they're going for, but with a slight horror thriller type of twist.
Mm-hmm. And we have an interview with Patrick Brice that Chris got. So let's play that here, and maybe he will expand on that.
What inspired you and Mark Duplass, who you co-wrote the film with, to write the film Creep?
Well, Mark and I were friends. My wife was working for him and his wife when we first moved to Los Angeles, and I was going to school at Cal Arts, which is kind of a very like specific, odd art school. Where they do lots of conceptual art. A lot of performance stuff comes from there. It's well known for its animation program. And I was just doing like experimental video type stuff. And, had just graduated, had made a short documentary, and was trying to figure out what was next. And so basically the idea for the movie came out of Mark Duplass and I having these conversations post my graduation from school, really just trying to, I was just throwing him out ideas, and most of them were documentary ideas. That was kind of my plan, was to start doing doc work, but that ended up kind of getting sidelined by us having a conversation where we started talking about Craigslist encounters, but not just that, the kind of common universal experience of being in a situation with another person that you maybe can only talk yourself out of, or you're forced into a situation with a person that might be dubious in some way, even if it's just unnerving or dangerous, and how, I guess, social mores, a lot of times prevents people from being able to protect themselves in a situation like that. And that's where the initial idea for Creep, which was originally called Peach Fuzz, by the way, came from.
Right, because of the mask in the film.
Yeah, we came up with that title and didn't really know why at first. That was Mark texting me and saying, I don't know why, but I think this film should be called Peach Fuzz, and me just texting him back, fuck yes, just because I think it's just weird and delightful, and then it kind of turned into a metaphor once the movie got rolling. It's a real example of the sort of specific, odd, intuitive process that it was making this thing.
And what was it like working with Mark to write the film? How long did that take? What was that process like for you guys?
It took a few weeks to write the treatment, we didn't have a script. The film's all the dialogue is entirely improvised, and we were shooting off of kind of a outline / treatment. The scenes were all developed in camera while we were doing them. There was a lot of times where we had an idea of where a scene was going to end up, but Mark would throw something out, or I would throw something out, or nature or God would interfere, and we'd have to kind of react to it. And it was cool. It was this way of setting up enough of a foundation that we could always go back to that, and we knew we had this structure, as we went along to kind of rely on. But you could take little tangents off that. You could take little trips off the trail, and also the ability to watch takes immediately after we'd shot them and go back and make adjustments was great. And there was no need to wait for anyone, because it was just me, Mark, and a video camera. Sometimes we had Chris Stachiw, our editor, helping us, but other than that, it was just me and Mark. It's a really unique way to make a movie, and it's a really, as an actor, I got to say, it was my first time really acting, and it was great for me to have someone who was like super supportive and really smart, but also excited and willing to kind of push me to do stuff I wasn't capable of. It's we were really taking turns directing each other in the process of shooting the movie.
Were you and Mark always the leads for the film? I'm assuming that you were, considering the kind of the budgetary constraints.
Yeah, we were. I mean, part of the impetus for the movie was that we would be able to make something that didn't require anyone else, that we could just make on our own. And that was, I gotta say, it didn't, it was, it was hard at times, but it was hard just like making any movie is hard at times. It's just a different set of problems. And it's ones that kind of help and end up, it ended up forcing us to do something different with the found footage genre, just in the process of solving our own specific problems. Like, the fact that the camera's on, the fact that there needs to be a justification for all the cameras on. Like, that's a question that we were asking at every moment. And it wasn't necessarily, are we fitting into some box? It was like, it's just not going to make sense otherwise, unless we justify it some way, even if it's just setting the camera down.
Right.
And it's a weird thing. And I don't even think, I think there are moments in the movie where you're like, why, if you were really wanting to poke holes in it, it's like, why the fuck is the camera on at this point? But I think the goal is that you earn enough of the audience's trust early on. And in our case, we were lucky because I feel like our conceit gave us a lot of wiggle room with this. That, once you're absorbed in the movie, if that's the question you're asking, then you're really not doing the film isn't doing its job.
Who would you consider to be your influences? Obviously, you directed the film, so who would you consider to be your kind of film influences?
Well, I mean, there's people I'm fans of, and there's people, and I can say they've influenced me for sure. It's funny because like Creep is not necessarily reflective of those things. It's just those were my inroads. Those people were my inroads to making movies. But David Lynch is someone that I've always admired and appreciated, and was someone that kind of got me excited about the possibilities of making movies, and the fact that he was able to do what he did and have the subconscious and the unconscious mind reflected in his visuals. It's just, and his sound design is just amazing. He's amazing, and so he's someone that I've always thought about. And in terms of horror, I'm a big John Carpenter fan, and I've kind of been late to the game in discovering him, but I really just down to the fact that, down to his scores, which are just so lovely and feel like almost like folk art, the fact that he was doing his own scores, and then just all those movies in the 80s, that whole string of movies that are just like all wildly different from each other and unique, and we're pushing, I think, what horror could do. While there's all these other kind of slasher movies going on, he's actually, questioning a lot of big things about society and about what it's like to be a human being and about religion. I really appreciate his stuff big time.
What were y'all's different takes on the ending of the film?
I would say, what's not there and what won't be available to the public at any point, is we had a framing device originally with the movie that was my character, Aaron, doing a direct address to the camera in a somewhat Ferris Bueller's Day Off type of way, which was it just didn't make sense and it didn't work, but was vital to the process of figuring out this movie structurally. And it was vital for me because I had to spend, I think, 2 days straight, 8 hours straight each day, acting alone, talking to a camera, and psychologically it was just insane, and a lot of it didn't work. And so, and at the end of the day, it didn't make sense, but it was kind of interesting to have that stuff in and then take it out and kind of trust, at one point we didn't even have jump cuts. And once we started inserting jump cuts, it was like, oh yeah, you can do that. It's like learning a little new language you're kind of creating your own rules. And that was the fun part for me, was those little epiphanies. And, to get to those little epiphanies, you kind of have to hit rock bottom first. And you got to feel that anxiety of like, oh shit, this isn't working. We showed this movie many times in different iterations. And that was part of why it changed so much is, with each one, we would kind of take notes, and if something was reflecting what we were already feeling, and it was like, this moment needs to be removed or this moment needs to be altered in any way, we would go in and make an attempt to fix it. And that worked 50 to 70% of the time. So that was good. Sometimes we would do a reshoot that we would end up using none of the footage, but we would learn that, we can't go down that path, or we can't go down, if we turn that corner, there's a wall, and so, it's a arts and crafts way to make a movie. It's like, it's cut and paste, and you really don't know what the final product's going to be because you don't have a script, but you have a concept and you have a vibe, and that it's going to be hitting these kind of, almost traditional story beats, and then you finesse that. Once you make it, once you can watch it, then it's just all about sort of, acknowledging what's not working and fixing it.
Right.
The ending, the original ending to the movie was Mark's character Joseph and my character Aaron sitting on a bench together, like sitting on the bench together at the end of the movie, and just kind of like staring off into the distance. It had a much sweeter tone to it.
Right.
It was once we started this process of making adjustments, it was in that time that the film, truly became a horror movie.
So it doesn't sound like then that you guys set out with the explicit intention of making a horror film.
No, we knew we didn't really talk about genre. We just kind of talked about the tools that were going to be available to us, and we talked about performance and character, and the genre kind of emerged on its own. It was really Like, we didn't know, there's a lot of awkward silences in the movie. Much more so than any mainstream film I've seen. Anything outside of like European art cinema, which I do watch and love. So I feel like I was able to I thought a lot about Michael Haneke, and like that last shot feels like a Haneke movie to me, just like having a long sustained take that something unexpectedly horrible happens in, and so yeah, the genre kind of emerged as we went, and what was cool was that it was emerging, and we were listening to what people were saying, and we let the movie go in that direction because that's where it wanted to go, and it made the movie so much better at the end of the day. It's just wildly different from what it was when we first put it together and showed it to folks.
With that in mind, what is your personal favorite scene in the film?
I guess the ending, that last sustained shot. Like, I feel like I was able to get away with something. That was something where that was a moment that I felt really inspired, and even though we had 5 different versions of that, it was all from a filmmaking standpoint, basically the same thing. The idea was to have this set up this moment where the audience almost, because the movie is only 2 people, so it's like this kind of claustrophobic thing to watch, and it's almost like the viewer can't be passive. You become not passive, and so to have something horrible happening and to set it up in a way where the viewer almost feels like it's some, and they could in some way influence what's going on screen. It becomes a different thing. It becomes a different thing than watching a movie, especially when it's taking that long. I just can't believe that we got away with it. That we got away with that, And that part's exciting for me, and that's like why it's like one of the it's been one of the fun things about making movies. It's having those moments and all that's all those factors coming together, and then getting to live with that. So yeah, it was a stressful movie to make in a lot of ways. And that was a moment where, in the process of making it, I actually felt good momentarily.
In that last scene, Mark Duplass's character of Joseph comes out and kills you with an axe to the head. And, the werewolf mask, or the wolf mask, is kind of the iconic piece of, costume from the film. Who came up with the use of that werewolf mask in the film?
That we both came up with that while we were outlining. We kind of just go beat by beat in the story, kind of writing out in long form, and then this will happen, and then this will happen, and then this will happen, and that was just something that kind of came in the brainstorming phase of that. And I think we immediately went online and started looking up wolf mask, and that was one of the first ones and one of the best ones. It was kind of the only one, actually, because we wanted it to be grotesque, but we also wanted it to be a little goofy,
Right.
We wanted it to be a little silly, and I feel like it ends up being or feeling like both those things. I think it has to do with the bushy mane on the top of the head and surrounding the entire head. It's a good look, and it's not a skin tight, so it actually makes whoever's wearing it look like they have a giant head as well as being a werewolf.
Right.
So yeah, I love it. It's in my closet right now. Actually, it's losing hair. There was a scene where it was thrown into the lake at the end of the movie, and it got a little grody.
You've mentioned this a couple times. It was just you and Mark and all this. Was it when you guys were sitting down to write it? Was it always your intention for it to be found footage because of the kind of constraints of everything that you guys were working on?
Yeah, it became found footage by default. it was found footage because that was the only way it would make sense to make this movie this way, and because that was the general conceit of the movie is already my character is filming this character. And so it felt like one of the only scenarios still unmined, in found footage, that actually being in found footage lent itself to the movie. You know what I mean? Like sometimes when you're watching a found footage movie, I don't know because I don't really watch a lot of them, but I have felt this way at certain points where it's like, this could just be a normal movie, or I would rather just visually want to watch this scenario in a normal movie, for us, it was just that's a way that we could do this quickly and immediately and not have to go through any of the potential kind of creative roadblocks that come with making something with a bunch of people, Mm-hmm. That stuff just takes time. And it wasn't that odd of a project for me because I'd just come from this super experimental art school where I'm watching 7-hour movies and watching crazy art installations, with like an hour-long single shot and stuff like that. So it's I was excited to kind of treat I treated it like a formalist experiment. Like this is the box that we have put around ourselves, and now we have to make something with these simple, specific tools.
Right.
And it did. I mean, it was great. It was like a second film school for me. It felt like because the stakes were higher, and I'm still learning. And I'm doing all this stuff that I've really never done before. I hadn't done anything really in the narrative space before, and it was a good. So I learned a lot of good lessons going forward in making work.
Right. I mean, sometimes found footage can be extremely derivative, and I think that your film expertly avoids that by, like you said, kind of tapping one of the last frontiers of found footage.
Yeah. And I think going into I think it's very hard to make a found footage movie. And I think especially on the going right into it, because with even into the outlining process, you can come up with the most amazing thing, but then you have to, or amazing idea, but then you have to justify the camera. So there's this thing waiting in wings for you to kind of spoil your creative juice and spoil your fun when you're just coming up with ideas. So it's I don't know. It's funny. I really think it's something, from a filmmaking standpoint, you have got to love that approach if you're going to task yourself with making a movie in that genre.
No, I totally agree. Everyone says, "Oh, it looks so easy. It looks so easy." It's not.
Right, and that's the other thing too is in terms of ego surrendering is you spend a lot of time finessing something that ends up that's meant to look like crap at the end of the day. It's meant to look tossed off, and it's meant to look like it wasn't deliberately framed, and so I feel like I was able to find those moments when I could, and there are some moments that I'm proud of for sure, but it's an odd thing to put so much work into something that does end up looking incredibly simple at the end of the day,
In the film, Aaron and Joseph are the only characters, period. And at certain times in the film, you kind of swap roles for who the audience should be sympathizing with. Was that something that was important for you to do to make kind of the audience question who they should be sympathizing with and who they are sympathizing with?
Yeah, that was something we hoped people would get. Whether or not we were, I don't think we were always successful with it, but I think there are times where it works, and there's times, I really think it's a movie that if you give in to this movie, if you give in to the conceit of it, it will reward you. But one of the things that it kind of asks at the same time is a little bit more, just a little bit more of a focused viewing experience than probably folks are used to giving a movie, you know? And so I feel like what you're talking about is something that can be found if you're giving it that kind of attention. At the same time, it's all stuff that just came as a byproduct of us trying to keep things moving and believable from moment to moment. And I'm always annoyed when I don't care about a character in any genre. Horror is a genre that gets kind of a bad rap for not caring about character as much and caring about gore, or just caring about jump scares, or I think. But the goal is to kind of try to find a balance and all that stuff. So that's what we were trying to do.
In October, we're going to be talking about primarily horror films. We've already talked a little bit about how much you enjoy John Carpenter. Are there any horror films that you enjoy, be it contemporary films or the classics?
Any horror films that I enjoy?
Yeah, any horror films. They could be traditional or non-traditional.
Yeah. Well, just going back to my man David Lynch. I'm a true believer and lover of his Twin Peaks spinoff, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. And I feel like that movie is kind of a traditional horror movie on some levels. And it also does something amazing where you really end up feeling for the main character in this kind of evil, surreal world, and so that's one that I love and would probably be a good one to watch in October. Man, what else? What's one that I just can't? Oh, The Shining. I could probably watch The Shining once a week and I'd be completely fine. That movie does something so specific and wonderful, and is funny and just endlessly rewarding, and I go deep with that. Like I was a big fan of Room 237 as well. So Room 237 is great because it's not as much about The Shining or about debunking the myths of The Shining or anything. It's really about these people that he's interviewing. Even though you don't see them, you are seeing you are seeing the film in these people's minds as they're narrating, and so it's just an interesting it's an interesting avenue into people's heads, and the score is really good. That's a unique film.
Is there anything you're working on now you'd like to talk about?
No, I'm not specifically, but I'm back basically having both Creep and the Overnight release this year, and are kind of out to the world now. The last month or two has been me getting back to writing, so I'm working on various things right now, just trying to see which one will emerge as the thing to spend most of my time on for the next few months.
And I've read a couple places that you and Mark have talked about, Creep 2 and 3, or at least 2. But obviously I've read a couple other places that you guys planned it as a trilogy. Is that something that you guys are still kicking around, or is it just hard to schedule because of how busy you guys are?
Well, yeah, it's kind of a combination of all those things. We're having conversations about it, but it's not something that's immediately in the works at this point. We're just trying to sort of come down to earth this year and see where both of our lives are at, and try to find a hole to go and make something.
Well, thanks again to Patrick Brice for doing that interview with us. So, we were talking about the characters being a little off, but not blatantly. And I feel like that's something that definitely gets helped by the beginning, the first, 30 minutes of the movie.
When he first does the interviews?
Right, when Patrick Brice is first talking to Mark Duplass, and they're there's weird things that happen in that. Mark Duplass is that kind of character that continues over and over to hug Patrick Brice.
Yeah.
He makes jokes about how, when you saw that axe in front of my house, was there a moment where you thought I might kill you with it?
Yeah, and, he quickly gains this attachment where I think the first night he's trying to go home and he won't let him go home.
Mm-hmm.
Or not that he won't let him, but he's like, oh, have one more drink with me. And then the guy's keys disappear and you're just like, okay, where is this movie going?
Mm-hmm.
Are these accidents? Is he just weird? Does he need, attention? There's a lot of just things, various reasons, why he could be doing this, but the film frames it in a way where you're just like, okay, something doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think later, and then, they go on some excursions together when he shows them that water, that heart water thing.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of one of those nice moments. You're like, okay, maybe this guy's normal and he's just odd. And then it just kind of goes back and forth between that. And then finally he tells them the story about Peach Fuzz, the super disturbing.
No. I found that part less disturbing than that happy, friendly song Mark Duplass sings while wearing the Peach Fuzz mask.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, it's just a weird movie. And Patrick Brice's character, I have to say, is kind of a moron by the end of the film.
And that's I don't really want to talk about the ending.
I'm just saying his general actions once he finally puts some space between him and Duplass's character is less than what I would call intelligent.
Oh yeah, he's having those weird dreams and shit too.
Yeah, and we find out at one point Mark Duplass actually broke into his house.
And cut his hair and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some terrifying shit.
Yeah.
Oh man. There are parts in the movie that have some really awesome shots too, just from a sort of cinematography aspect. There's the part where they're walking back up to the cabin at night, which is the picture used for the poster of the movie.
Right.
Where it's Mark Duplass framed with that light behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the most unsettling pictures of the entire film.
He just stands there.
Right, and you can't see anything about him except his silhouette, and he's a weird guy, and you're not exactly sure what, his goal is. And it stays on that for just too long to be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he's like, okay, and then he steps down the stairs or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And it's I don't know, during that scene, I was like, okay, this is where I'd say I'm fucking out.
And he kind of does, but then he comes back and...
So, we're going to talk a little bit about the ending right here, and this movie hasn't been out long enough that I personally think spoiling it would be acceptable. We've talked about specific things, but we haven't really ruined the feel of the movie or anything like that, so... at this point, we're going to give a little spoiler alert because Yashar wants to talk about it. So if you haven't seen this movie, or if what we've talked about so far makes you want to see this movie, maybe tune out for, 10 minutes.
Yeah. Or forever. Or just never come back.
Right. Just never listen to the site again. All right, Yashar, what did you think about the ending?
Well, before the specific ending, the kind of last act is he realizes that Mark Duplass's character is a compulsive liar, because I think he has a conversation with Mark Duplass's sister.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
No, that's in the bathroom towards the beginning. He realizes he's a liar when he starts sending him videos saying that they're best friends.
Oh, right.
And that wolves love things deeply but don't know how to express love, so they tear the things they love apart.
Yeah, and despite all this weird stuff, he's like, okay, I'm going to give him one more chance, because Mark Duplass is like, hey, I want to meet up one last time. And the guy's like, okay, well, we'll meet in a park, it's public, blah, 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 blah. And a normal person would probably just ignore it, especially since, the relationship probably, spanned a couple weeks at most, something like that. prior to their falling out. So it's not like this was his best friend or something. And it just, so whatever. This guy's not as intelligent as I thought. He goes to the park, and there's he leaves like a camera on his, dashboard, and it is a park, but the dude just sits there. You see, Mark Duplass with his Peach Fuzz mask with the axe from the beginning of the film, like very slowly, but also in the middle of a park, walk towards him and just chop him in the head. And that's how it ends. And well, I guess it goes to Mark Duplass. I was like, I can't believe you didn't even look back. Like you trust.
Okay,
he's like,
let's talk about that bit in a second, because I want to talk about my thoughts on the axe thing.
Okay.
I personally would have gone to that park.
You would have. Because
look, this Mark Duplass's character is clearly just going to keep bothering you, right?
You think so?
Yeah, he's totally. I mean, if we assume that his character is, the insane character that he's been acting like up until this point, if you don't go to that park, he's going to come to your house and be like, hey, why didn't you come to the park to meet me?
But the guy didn't know how insane he was. All he knew was like this, okay, he's apologizing to me now.
Well, he knew that he was breaking into his house to put
No, he didn't know that.
Well, breaking the screen on the window.
Yeah.
And he knew that he was sending him packages and, videos of him burying a dead body and shit.
But then the last video is him saying, hey, I apologize. If you never want to see me, I understand. But if you do, I'm going to be here at this time.
Yeah,
right?
But that's, okay, look, I would have gotten a gun or a bat or something, and I would have gone to the park.
Or why don't you just call the cops?
Well, he called the cops before.
Yeah, but not after he had a time and location and everything.
Yeah,
and
but the reason the cops couldn't do anything was because technically Mark Duplass hadn't done anything illegal.
Right.
As far as Aaron had proof of.
And okay, so he goes and he does like Mark Duplass says, he's like, you didn't even look behind you.
And that's what I would have done differently, but then Mark Duplass's character Joseph explains that in the end. So now we can talk about.
Yeah. Well, he explains it. His interpretation is that
Aaron is just the best person ever.
Yeah, and he kind of loves him too, and tries to see the best, and it's this very naive type of breakdown of sort of the human psyche.
Well, not naive, twisted. It's psychopathic.
Well, no, naive in the sense of it's very simplistic. And then we find out apparently this dude's been doing this because you see him take all the recordings that Aaron made and put them on the shelf. And apparently he's been doing this for years, where he just gets people and then I'm assuming he murders them. Because he was like, you're the one that I almost didn't want to do this to, which implies he's killed other people before.
Right.
Which that's a whole nother can of worms. How's this guy been getting away with this for so long? But that's neither here nor there, because that's not really what the movie's about.
Right. I mean,
unless they're setting up Creep 2. Jeep Creep.
I don't know if Creep 2 would have the same effect as I watched it.
Well, I would think you should switch that to straight up horror movie. Just have him creeping.
Just have Creep 2 be Peach Fuzz chasing people through the
Yeah. Yeah, I would watch that.
Oh yeah, we didn't even say, I don't think we said Peach Fuzz is a wolf mask that is absolutely shit-pantsingly terrifying.
And it's he introduces it as sort of a family heirloom, but it's...
that his dad wore around to tickle him with.
But it's really just this mask that he has for killing people. And it's messed up. And this is...
Okay, Yashar, so best performance and skip it or watch it.
Well, there's really only two performances. I guess Mark Duplass for just being genuinely creepy. And I would say watch it, especially if you like, found footage horror. Like we kind of said, horror maybe is not the right term to use, but if you like kind of thriller, edge of your seat type of films, or if you like found footage, I would definitely check it out. And as far as, best performance is Mark Duplass, but I mean, arguing for Patrick Brice is dumb guy.
I'm gonna say watch it. Again, Chris and I have this issue with found footage movies, but recently, I think the last two that we've watched have been pretty good.
What was the one you saw before this?
I don't remember what it was. I just remember I just remember a found footage movie that we liked.
Okay.
I don't have that good of a memory. But I think the only one that we've watched that I didn't like was that one on tornadoes.
Was that one come out recently?
Yeah, it came out recently, and it was about...
Was that like Into the Storm or whatever?
Yeah, Into the Storm is what it was. That's one we watched that I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I saw the one trailer and I was like, hard pass.
Yeah, if it hadn't been for Disaster Movie Month, I never would have seen it. But, you know, this movie, again, it takes that found footage aspect and makes it explains why, I mean, the bad guy hires the good guy specifically to film it. So it makes sense. It also isn't like shaky cam all the time, which is what a lot of found footage movies do, is they just shake the camera and go, oh my god, there's a monster.
Yeah, there really isn't any shaky cam or anything that I can really remember in this one.
Yeah, there's the part where they're like hiking through the woods, but even then, it's not shaky cam to make something scary. It's shaking cam because he's moving quickly and then he stops and pauses and focuses again. You know, and I think I have to give best performance to Patrick Brice. I like Mark Duplass, but I think it's harder to play the sort of unsettled victim than it is to play the creepy character.
The creep, if you will.
Right. And I also think, you know, he's got to get points for filming all that stuff too. I don't know if it was him with the camera the whole time, but if it was, that's a lot of work to make sure your shots are good.
Well, he did direct it, so...
Right. I'm just saying there might have been like a camera guy walking with him.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because to act and to carry the camera and make sure it's focused and like does all the zooms and framing that you want, and to be running around chasing Mark Duplass, I imagine that was a lot of work. So I think Patrick Brice gets points for that too.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Rotten Tomatoes has the movie at?
Like 70%.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because it's at 95.
Really?
There's no, well, it's not...
Although, you have to keep one thing in mind. Rotten Tomatoes isn't really like, we're saying this is the best movie. It's either good or bad, right?
Right.
So 95% of the reviews have been positive.
Right. It doesn't have certified fresh though, because it hasn't been out long enough. The average rating on the critic reviews is 7 out of 10. But it's 95% fresh, with 19 fresh reviews and 1 rotten. The critic consensus is a smart, oddball take on found footage horror. Creep is clever and well acted enough to keep viewers on the edges of their seats.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I kind of think that's what we said, but a little bit more
concise.
I would say like just more. But yes, concise, in depth. They didn't have a podcast, whatever.
The audience score, though, is 67% liked it out of
that's kind of where I was at.
3,000 ratings. That's a little surprising to me.
You expected it to be higher or lower?
Yeah, I mean, I expected it to be higher. I don't know if maybe they watched it not knowing it was going to be what it was, and that's why there's not a higher used audience score.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, it's an odd film. It's not. It doesn't doesn't come out and you're like, oh, this is a masterpiece or something like that. But I think it kind of has a target audience.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't. This movie didn't have the big marketing budget that like Hollywood major blockbuster releases do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
So like me personally, I didn't know anything about it until we watched it for Culture Shock.
Yeah, I didn't really know anything I just knew it was like a movie with Mark Duplass that was kind of odd. So I was like, okay, I'm in.
Right. So if you came into it not knowing what it was going to be, or you watched it on Netflix because you just spotted it there and were like, oh, Mark Duplass, then maybe you weren't ready for what it was because you didn't know what it was.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, I don't think so either.
And in today's like film going, like the film experience, it is kind of nice to be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I was really into The Gift that came out earlier this year, that Joel Edgerton and Jason Bateman movie, and The Visit, that new M. Night Shyamalan movie. Like, they were things that just kind of were, not that I can predict every movie, but they were just different. It was counter to what I expected completely. So the same goes towards Creep.
Mm-hmm.
I had really no idea. I just knew it was a weird movie.
Well, before we talk about what we're going to talk about on our next Kulturecast, Yashar, do you have anything you want to plug?
Follow me on Twitter at Yashar Pirasteh, YASHARPIRASTEH. And if you're looking to move, check out BoxHop, BoxHopp. It's the moving app that I have developed. It's on the Android store.
iOS yet?
It's been submitted. So I think there's some sort of approval process that takes a little while. But I mean, after months of we're about to, the fact that we're there.
I've got my Twitter is John Lein 1. You can follow me on that. You can follow Culture Shocked at Culture Shocked.
No way.
Yeah, that's our Twitter. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. And keep checking out the site because we do a bunch of other stuff. Chronicles from the Crypt is a Tales from the Crypt retrospective. We've got the Kulturecast. We've got Running the Ropes. We just popped up a new game portion of the website, so there's a bunch to look at and check out. On Thursday, our Kulturecast is going to be about Demons, the old school movie about a movie theater in which demons get unleashed in Italy.
Is that the prequel to Angels and Demons?
No, it's not that.
Oh.
It's from 1985. We have an interview for that with Fabiola Toledo, who played one of the chicks that turns into a demon. It's one of those old school Evil Dead type special effects movies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that'll be cool. So check us out. And we'll see you next time.
But I'm a creep. I'm a widow. What the hell am I doing here? When I don't belong here. It's okay that hurts. Control. I want a perfect body. I want me one of those brand new perfect souls. I said I want you to know that.